Thanks for listening to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, please visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. We would also appreciate it if you left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Thank you in advance for your support, and remember, you make your money when you buy, and you get paid when you sell. Now let's go build some wealth. All right, guys, welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast.
Got your host, Mike Slane, and co-host,
David Dodge. Welcome back.
Welcome, guys. Welcome. This is Discount Property Investor. So what do we talk about on here? We talk about investing.
Making money with real estate.
Investing
That's
in
right.
discount properties. That's our goal.
That is the goal, guys. You get paid when you sell. However, no, I screwed that up.
You make your money when
you make your money when you buy. No, I did it right.
Yeah.
You make your money when you buy, but you get paid when you sell. So making the money, it's all done by buying at a discount. So if you haven't checked out our free course, freewholesalecourse.com. Mike, I was just thinking we might want to go in and redo some of the videos in there. We've had over 4,000 people take our course at this point.
Pretty good.
Which is a lot. I'm really proud of that, man. 4,000 people we've been able to help teach how to wholesale properties.
That's one of the things. So we'll get
It's
off topic real quick because I'm the same way. It's one of those things where you think about like what can you give back or whatever. Like this is probably one of the bigger things or one of the more impactful things that we've done in real estate investing. Like it's touched the most people.
Touched a lot of people.
Right. Like we buy houses and we fix them up and we make nice places for people to live, and that affects one or two families and puts a little cash flow in your pocket. But no, the free wholesale course, I know we've changed a lot of people's lives. We've gotten plenty of testimonials telling us that.
Yep.
You know, that our info has helped them get started, encouraged them to get started. So it is very cool.
It's very cool. What are we talking about today, Mike?
Well, we're talking about discount property investing.
Boom! That's where it all starts, guys.
No, today we're kind of doing a little Burr strategy summary because we're
doing a mini series.
We're doing a lot of rental acquisitions in our business, and we wanted to share that with you guys. So typically our podcast is all about wholesaling, how to get started investing in real estate, which is why we encourage you to check out that free wholesalecourse.com.
That's right.
But today we're in our Burr strategy. We are in the first R. So summary of the Burr is buy, rehab, refinance, rent, repeat.
Boom.
So we are in the first R at rehab, and the previous episode we were talking a little bit about just rehabbing in general. Today we're going to try to focus on managing your rental rehab.
Managing the project.
Yes,
gotta love it.
Managing your project. And what does that mean? It's a big difference between either going in and doing the work yourself and hiring a couple GCs to help you with it versus hiring a general contractor to just go in and do the rehab yourself. So that's kind of what we're going to try to discuss today, and hopefully we cover a lot of the main points and issues that go along with that. Dave, what do you think? What's your preference? What did you do when you started? Stuff like that. I'd like to kind of hear.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea, Mike.
Let's talk about
our own stories. Yeah. So when I first started full-time real estate investing, I bought a house for $19,000 and I put $25,000 in it.
That sounds about right.
Okay.
Most $19,000 houses need about $20,000.
They need about $20,000, right? Yeah. So I spent $25,000 on the rehab.
Yep.
And that is kind of crazy because I didn't have any, well, I shouldn't say any. I had very, very, very low labor cost because I was the main laborer. And this project took 7 months. 7 months for one rental rehab. Mike, how quick are we doing our rental rehabs now?
Well, I've actually got our numbers pulled up, and I can give you the average number of days. So this is another thing that's very important, is knowing your numbers.
Knowing your numbers. We keep stressing that.
Days to complete our rehabs, average is 56 now.
So and we're at about 40 rentals on there, right? Roughly?
About 40.
About 40. Mm-hmm. So the average is 2 months. The first one I did was 7 months. So it's okay. You're going to get better at this as you do it more and more. So don't stress out if the first rehab that you do takes 6 months. Seriously.
Even if all of
Not
them
a big deal.
Even if all of them take 6 months.
Right.
So, I mean, even if you're doing 1 or 2 a year, you're keeping your W-2 job, and it takes you 6 months to do it, who cares? If you're adding 1 or 2 rentals to your personal property portfolio every year, that is huge.
That's huge. It
That
is,
a
absolutely.
game changer for you and your children.
Totally agree.
So, again, very exciting
Legacy.
stuff. So my first one, I'll be honest, I don't even remember the cost, the numbers, anything like that. I purchased a 4-family unit back in 2009. I purchased it off the MLS. It was kind of run down. It was in a decent area. So I was going to move into it myself. So I did literally everything wrong. I rehabbed it like I was going to live there because I was living there. So I got new cabinets in the kitchen, and I added a
Not in all
dishwasher.
units, though, right?
Just in mine.
Okay, just in
because
yours.
It was 3 were rented.
Right.
1 was vacant.
And I'm moving into that one.
I'm
right.
moving in. I'm going to make this place nice. And I did, and it was nice. And that one still gets me a little bit more rent because, again, it's got that dishwasher. It's got some features the other ones don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I did most of the GC stuff myself. I'd never done any of that type of work. I painted it. I got put the baseboards up, got an air compressor, all that stuff. I hired a buddy who was an electrician by trade. He helped me with some of the other stuff. And it was just way over budget for sure, and a good learning experience. It was fun. So I think a lot of us probably start out doing a lot of the work ourselves, doing a lot of the GCing ourselves, and it just becomes a part of your journey. And there's no better way, I think, to learn how to do this than GCing your own projects and being hands-on in the beginning. I do think that it's worthwhile.
I agree, Mike. Completely agree.
Even though I have no desire to do it anymore.
Yeah. A lot of things that I learned about this 7-month rehab that I did on my own was I learned, what needs to be done. And in this particular house, everything needed to be done. So it was a curse because I spent 7 months working on it, but it was a blessing at the exact same time because I had to learn how to do plumbing. I had to learn how to do minor electrical work. I had never done drywall work before. I had never laid tile before. I had never installed cabinets. I had never put a countertop on before. I had never swapped out a vanity or a toilet. I had never done any of the things that I had to do on this project.
Let me get that silver spoon out of this guy's mouth.
I know, right? I had never put a roof on before. Now, I had hired somebody to do the roof, but I was there with them, helping them. So I learned as we would go along.
No, I'm with you, Dave. Same thing.
Everything that we did, we learned. So why does that matter? Why is that important? Because now when I walk through a property, I know immediately, okay, this won't fly. The inspector is going to flag it, or it needs to be changed in order to get high rent, so on and so forth. So
I think
it's all part of the process of just getting good at knowing your numbers. That's the point here. Know your numbers.
Well, I would say even a step further, though, is when you actually do the work, you recognize how much work each one of those jobs is. So when you've got
correct.
People, when people come back and give you different bids, you've got an idea. Oh, well, that entails this, and this to do it right. Or that's simple. It's 2 screws to pull the vanity out. And
speaking of that exact thing, Mike, I met a guy yesterday at this exact table. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say any names or anything because I'm not trying to be rude, but he was very new to investing. And he didn't know, and it's okay. I tried to help him. We sat down with him for about an hour to try to help him out. But he was buying houses, tax auction houses that had been abandoned and they had been vacant for 5, 6, 7, 8 years in some cases. And he's buying them for anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000. And these houses need $50,000 worth of work. But he didn't know. And he thought, I can get this done for 15 or 20. And I was like, no, it's going to be $40 to $50 per foot. How many feet? Let's do the math. This is just how it works. And if he was like, you're crazy, and I was like, you're crazy. We weren't arguing, but he just didn't know. So I was like, hey, go do it. You're going to learn you're going to learn everything that you're going to need to know in this one project that's going to carry with you for every project beyond that. Because you don't know until you know. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, I love it. And again, it's the coaching aspect that kind of comes out too. And it's not trying to, it's difficult because again, you don't want to say you're wrong. But it's kind of like, well, you'll see.
Can I give you some guidance? It's kind of what I was going with. And I'm like, just don't go into it with the impression that you're going to spend this, double it. And if you beat that, you're doing great, fantastic. But if you go in with a low expectation and you double it, you're going to look at it like it's a huge failure. When in reality, that whole process was learning.
Yeah.
So you're paying for education too. You got to think there's lots of things that are involved there.
Well, and the cool thing is he's out there doing it too.
He's out there doing it.
So, I mean, good for him, and keep it up.
And that's what I told him as I walked out. I said, hey, man, I hope I wasn't, too abusive with you, but I'm proud of you, man.
Yeah, it's great.
Boom, 99% of the public is going to sit around and they're going to watch 15 more episodes of something on TV and not do anything.
That's the new one.
The fact that you're jumping in is putting you a leg up. I was like, you're probably not going to make money on this first deal just because we had ran through the numbers and they didn't look that great. But the fact that he did it and that he jumped in and he just said, screw it, I have to applaud him for that.
Yeah, awesome.
Absolutely. 100%. So,
all right, so let's talk about, we kind of told our
managing your rental rehab. That's our episode.
Get back on track here. We talked about our experience, and we talked about, where we started, and we kind of did it ourselves. So let's kind of talk from that perspective first, Dave. Let's talk about pretending like you're going to be the GC yourself, and how do you deal with hiring subs, and when do you hire a subcontractor?
Got it. So I'm the GC, or you're the GC.
Right, so you buy your rental, you come up with your plan, you walk through it, you look at each room, you say, okay, I'm going to need, this tub looks really bad, and there's holes in the tile, and it looks like it's leaking. It's like, I don't know how to do plumbing. I need to find somebody.
Right.
The kitchen, well, the cabinets look okay. I can probably paint those, and the countertop's in good shape. So let's talk about what we do in each one of those situations, and how we hire a GC, or a subcontractor, or decide to do it.
Right. So if you're new at this, you're going to want to get some subs or some laborers that you can hire to help do these projects, unless you're wanting to do them yourself. At that point, you are the sub. You are the worker. But if you're GCing the project yourself, you need to find people to hire to do these jobs. So depending on what is needed, it might just be laborers who at that rate can do a lot of things. They can lay flooring, they can paint, they can do minor carpentry work, okay? Or you want to find yourself a carpenter as well, too, a good one for certain projects, right? Where do you find these people? The first place I would recommend going would just be to Facebook. Go to the local group for real estate investors in your area. Don't go to a nationwide group with 50,000 people. Find one that's got anywhere from 500 to 5,000 people in it, ish. That's localized to your group. So the Indianapolis Real Estate Investment Club, or the Toronto or San Diego, Real Estate Investor Club, or go to groups that people are promoting handyman work. Okay, we work with a lot of our subs who are handyman. They're not really they don't really specialize in anything in particular, but they do a lot of little different things. So you want to find those people, you want to interview those people, and you want to get a lot of bids and estimates.
So that's a really good place to start, Dave. I like that. The other thing I would say is just post it on your Facebook. Hey, I bought a house, I need help with this, and see if
that's a great idea.
I mean, someone you
may have a friend or a friend of a friend who's out of work, and they're willing to come do it at a good price, and it's a win-win still.
Exactly.
So no one's really losing there. So that's a great point.
Okay, so how do you get a bid for a job? How do you pay this contractor? So let's just talk about, okay, the house needed, we talked about the kitchen needs the cabinets, you think you're going to repaint them, and it probably needs flooring. So this general handyman that is in your network of people said, oh yeah, I'm looking for some work. I could come work for you. Well, you've hopefully got your plan and you've got your budgets. You've got to work those things in. So you go out, you purchase the materials. You say, I want this painted and I want this floor laid. That's what I need done, and I can't do it myself because you're working a 9 to 5, or you just aren't handy or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Or you have other projects that you're managing. I mean, the goal here is to be the manager.
Exactly.
Not the
goal
worker.
is to be the project manager, and then one step up that, and to be the boss, essentially.
Right.
So you can pay them one or two ways. One, you can say, okay, could you do all this for
X?
Exactly, $500. Can you paint all these cabinets?
Which we refer to as just getting a bid for the project.
A fixed bid.
Fixed bid, right?
And a lot of times I think fixed bid is probably the way to go.
Well, it depends if you are there managing the people properly, because if you're paying hourly, so the other option is hourly. And if you're paying hourly and they're working slow, that's going to cost you a lot more than if you do a fixed bid, because if it's a fixed bid, it incentivizes them to speed up, because then their hourly wage is increased if they're working less hours.
Exactly. So there's pros and cons to each, though. So if they are fixed bid, they're going to work a little faster, but they may cut corners. So you're going to have to go in and double check the work, triple check the work to make sure that it's done properly and done well before you write that final check. So with a fixed bid, a lot of times subcontractors, and again, this probably isn't your friend, this is probably more of a general laborer.
Relationship. Yep.
They probably are going to ask for half of the money down and then half of it on the back end. And I would never pay anyone, I'm going to repeat that again, never pay anyone the full amount before the project's done. You absolutely cannot do that.
Every time I've heard of an investor getting burned by a contractor, that's how it happened.
Always.
They paid too much in the beginning, the contractor flaked out, and there's no recourse for that individual. So we typically try to avoid even paying half down. We say, okay, here's materials and here's a few days pay, or here's a small amount of money to get started. It depends who's buying materials, and we do it lots of different ways. But again, that has a little bit to do with it.
So sure. on buying materials, the IRS is pretty strict on that. What's the rule, Dave? It's if you're buying materials and you're paying that person, then they're considered an employee. So again, you want to be careful with that. You want to talk to your accountant and plan ahead.
And talk to your own accountant about that, because everybody will have a different strategy.
Exactly.
There, and that's okay.
And different tax planning and the way that they view things.
Right.
So again, talk to your accountant on that stuff. That is kind of a gray area on what you want to do, or not very gray. It's pretty black and white, but get their opinion. and do it the right way.
Do it the right way.
That's again what we recommend. So again, there's the fixed bids versus hourly, pros and cons to each. Let's talk a little bit about that. So we've got our friend, he did the flooring, he painted the kitchen cabinets, they're looking good, he put some new hardware on it for you, we forgot about that. But then you've got this bathroom to deal with. So the bathroom,
I love the bathrooms.
Man, there's some plumbing issues in there, and you really want to probably replace the tub this time because it's looking really bad, or the wall tiles. Maybe the tub's in good shape, but it's those wall tiles are coming off the wall, and there's, it looks like it's leaking.
Okay.
So what do you do? Well,
for one, you're not going to gut the entire bathroom. Start there.
Very good. Let's talk about the whole bathroom in general, too.
Yeah, but you're not going to gut it because you're not rehabbing this to retail. Remember that. You're rehabbing it for a tenant. You're rehabbing it to get your entrepreneurial credit so the whole burst strategy can even be possible.
I love it.
So start there.
You're not rehabbing it to move in like I did.
Don't do what he did.
Don't do that. You're rehabbing it to make it a rental.
Right.
You're not.
No, this is great, Mike. I love it. This is a great episode.
Yeah. So let's talk about the bathroom. Okay. Instead of your friend as a handyman, again, same thing what David suggested earlier. Post it out there on Facebook. Look on the local handyman group. Say, I've got a rental property that I need someone to do this for. And again, you can find that person. And it depends. Are you going to get a permit? Does it require a permit, the work that's being done?
Right.
Or does it not?
And a lot of the stuff is just going to kind of be learned along the way. And that's okay. That's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, and it really depends on what you do. If it's simple, like we said, there's a little leak, and it was just replacing the knobs on the shower valves, just replacing those. That doesn't require a permit. That's easy. But again,
right. No, that's a good point, Mike.
A plumber would know that and be able to fix that for you.
Yeah, or if you buy a house that's got structural issues, you may need an engineer and an engineer to come out and give you a bid or a plan, I should say, that you may have to take to the county or the city to even get a permit. So if that's the case, hire the right people. Now, I don't want
Dave and Mike, why would you buy a house that has structural issues?
Because you can get a good deal on it.
There you
Discount.
Go. There you go.
Okay, so one thing I do want to mention is if you are going to GC this project, which is what we're talking about.
Trying to talk about.
Yeah, well, we are. You have to be good at managing people and costs. So if you're not good at that or you have no interest in that, GCing the project yourself might not be a good idea. You may want to hire one, which we're going to get to here in a couple minutes. But that's one thing to keep in mind. Are you a people person or are you good at managing people? Definitely keep that in mind. Also, with that being said, is every time we hire a contractor, it doesn't always work out in a beautiful situation where everybody wins. Dealing with contractors can be difficult. So the idea is to make it a win-win for both you and them, and to build a relationship to where you can work with them in the future to get better pricing and just build trust. However, that doesn't always happen. So we hire a lot of people that we may only hire one time. And the only way to find and meet those good contractors is to work with a lot of them. So don't be discouraged if you hire somebody and it doesn't work out exactly the way you envisioned it. There's probably an issue with your communication there, or something. But again, it happens. We still hire people to this day that we have to fire. We still hire people to this day that we say, hey, nice working with you. We appreciate you're doing work on this particular job, but we're going to move on to a different people next time. And by doing this over and over, you start to find people that are reliable and that do good work. And they want to keep working for you, and you want to keep hiring them. So there's a lot of trial and error that goes into this process, but just know that it's okay. That's natural. That's normal. Everybody is dealing with that same issue. Okay? So with that being said, you're going to deal with subs. You have to determine if you want to be managing people as well as cost. You need to determine who's going to be buying those materials. And I think that basically kind of wraps up the GCing it yourself. The other option would be to hire a GC. So when we're dealing with hiring a GC, you're not managing the people anymore. Instead, now you are managing your general contractor. But the advantage here is it's way more hands-off for you. You're not having to interview people to do these particular jobs. You're not having to manage those people to do those jobs. You're not having to necessarily buy the materials for those jobs. You're hiring somebody else to step in that what you would hope, and most of the time they'll have their own people. They'll have their own carpenters. They'll have their own electricians. They'll have their own plumbers. So it can really speed up the speed of the project. However, when you hire a GC, most of the time, unless you make a lot of mistakes doing it yourself, most of the time you're going to be paying a little bit more for that project. But what are you getting in return? Just like when we go out and we buy a property from a motivated seller off market, we are providing them convenience for a low cost. All we're doing is trading a low cost from them for us to provide them with convenience. It's the exact same thing when you're dealing with a general contractor. They're stepping in to manage that project. They're going to be taking all those calls. They're going to be dealing with the inspectors. They're going to be dealing with the subcontractors. They're going to be dealing with the materials. That's their problem now. But you're going to have to pay them for that. So obviously you're going to have pros and cons both sides. And there's really no right or wrong way to do it. It just depends if you want to be active in that part of the business or not. And how fast do you want to scale? It's very difficult to scale and have 8 projects going while you're also out acquiring new ones if you're GCing all those projects.
Not only GCing, but doing the work yourself.
Doing the work yourself,
so you
even
really
more
do
important.
Need to,
right.
You really do need to.
It's going to slow you down even more.
Prep for that scaling. With that said, though, even if you're not doing the work yourself, you still need eyes on that property at least, I would say, every other day. I mean, probably every day. You should be going out to the property and checking on either your subcontractors that are helping you.
Yeah,
work,
and you're still managing a GC when you hire them. You're just no longer managing all the other things. You're just managing that. So it simplifies
GC.
The process.
Exactly, because and that's one of the things I like to do. I like to go out and, especially, I'm an early bird. So I'll get out to the projects pretty early in the morning before most of the crews show up. And I'll take pictures and I'll walk around. And then when the GC follows up and has a question with me, I can say, oh, yeah, hey, that tub looked really good that you had glazed or whatever.
And he's going to say, whoa, you saw it?
You were out at the project, huh? Again, you want to keep them on their toes. And that's
Hell yeah, you do.
That's something that's, and again, not like spying or anything. It's your project. You're paying him money
You're
to
paying
fix
him.
your
You want
property.
it. You go anytime you want.
100%. It's just, again, keeping them honest. And the other thing I like to know is how they maintain their project site. So when I've got a GC, if they've got materials everywhere and they didn't sweep up at the end of the day, it's to me, it's just an indication of how they operate. If it's a messy work site, it gives off a bad impression.
It's going to probably be a messy job if
It-
it's a messy work site.
Exactly.
People are messy in all aspects of their life if they're messy.
Well, and there's more room for errors, for losing things, for messing things up.
Slowing the project down.
Exactly. So somebody comes in with a big heavy tub or a big heavy piece of whatever, and they're walking around and there's nails and staples on the ground, they're going to grind all that stuff into your flooring. So again, if they're not taking care of the property when they're there, it's a big indication that maybe next time, consider somebody else.
Right.
Or ask them, hey, what's going on? How come the house is so dirty?
Or why are you being so sloppy, you
And if
slob?
they say, well, because I'm rehabbing the house, you can say, oh, yeah, but I noticed you didn't, clean up at the end of the day. Like, what's up with that?
Right.
So again, and you may not even want to have that conversation. You may just decide to work with someone else who does take pride in their project and takes pride in their work.
Right.
There's these little things that make a big difference, in my opinion. And again, sometimes it's worth a little bit extra. So,
Right. Well, Mike, we did a great job, I think, talking about, GC in the project on your own versus hiring a GC. Who's buying the materials? Are you good at managing those costs? When to hire? Do you need permits? Are you capable of doing it? I think we covered a lot of that already. I do want to talk a little bit about some of the pros and cons, though. So one thing I always say or think about when I have a project, a new project, all right, I always think about this. Time, quality, and cost, all right? Those are your three variables. How long is it going to take, the time? How much is it going to cost? And what is the quality of my rehab? So in general, and this goes for all rehabbing, time, quality, and cost are your variables, okay? Now, when you're dealing with a general contractor, typically you can pick two of those three. You can have a low time and a cheap cost, but you're going to sacrifice quality, okay? You can have low cost and high quality, but you're going to sacrifice your time. And last but not least, you can have high quality and a short time, but you're going to sacrifice paying a lot, your cost on those. So I typically like to say pick two of those three. You can't have all three. And the reason is because time, you want it to be short. Cost, you want it to be low. But however, your quality, you want it to be high. And trying to do all of those cheap, quick, but really good is difficult to do.
You're never going to find
You're never going to find that.
Yeah, that's the unicorn.
So pick two, okay? And that's essentially what you're going to, the third one, you're going to get at an advantage, okay? So the time, the cost, and the quality are your three variables. So keep that in mind when you're GC in the project or whenever you're hiring a GC for that project. You're still going to have to deal with those things. Time, quality, and cost. Pick two, okay? Otherwise, if you want to pick all three, you're going to sacrifice either your cost, your quality, or your time. One of those will suffer.
Well, and let me kind of circle back, and then we can keep going forward.
Sure.
One thing on hiring people that we didn't really touch on
Okay.
was you can choose how to pay them, but you also you're interviewing these people. You're hiring someone. So if this is someone who says they've done this type of work before,
show me.
Go out and look at their project.
Yeah, they have a Facebook page. Are they putting their project and their before and after photos out there? Do they have a website? 100%.
Exactly. And two, get multiple bids. And this is important. Don't just
mentioned it, but we need to talk about this more.
Did we?
We mentioned it, but we need to talk about this more.
Don't just get one person to go out there and look at something and give you a bid. Listen, this is their job.
Why is this important? Here's why. I've gotten bids on kitchens before that have been a variance of cost of 10 grand.
That's
Literally.
insane.
10 grand.
For rental project, 10 grand?
Yes.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's insane. But one thing that I'll always ask is, okay, here's the cost. Now, how long is this going to take and what quality are you giving me? And oftentimes the bid doesn't align with what I'm looking to do. Because again, these rehabs that we're doing for rental properties don't need to have crystal chandeliers in the kitchen, right? They need to be nice. They need to be comforting and welcoming so I can get a tenant in there. But they don't need to have marble countertops, okay?
Right. They don't even need granite, probably.
They don't even need granite, probably, right? So you want to definitely be looking at those three variables: time, cost, and quality. So get multiple bids and make sure that your bids align with your goal and your plan.
Very nice.
Love that.
Very well said, Dave.
So time, cost, and quality, I've stressed this a couple times now. Those are your variables. Keep them in mind. It circles back to know your numbers, all right? Some other pros and cons of both 2GC or 2 hire is stress, all right? How much are you wanting to spend on this project in terms of your time and your energy? If you have a lot of free time, then maybe GCing it makes sense for you. If you work a full-time job, as Mike had mentioned earlier, a lot of people listening to this podcast, they have full-time jobs. That's okay. Maybe you don't want to take on the stress. So you're willing to pay a little more to just hire one manager versus all the moving parts. So the amount of stress and or time that you're willing to spend is a big factor, and it can be a pro and a con. Okay? Next, scaling to multiple deals at once, or just scaling. If you're wanting to maximize the burst strategy and buy a bunch of them at once in order to scale your business, you can no longer be there doing plumbing work. Okay? You can no longer be the painter for this job. At that point, you have to start hiring GCs, because if you want to do multiple at once, you can't be in the same place twice, right? At the same time. So you have to be able to work with people that you can count on and, trust to manage your projects. So again, there's a pro and a con to scaling. If you're doing it all yourself, scaling may not even be an option, or it's going to be very difficult. Next, pro and con, liability. All right. You may hire a GC who has liability insurance. So all of those subs, are going to essentially be covered with workman's comp, or just in case of an injury. If you're doing it yourself, you may not have those same insurance policies. So you may or may not have a different liability. Again, it can be a pro and a con for both sides. Earlier, we had kind of mentioned paying your people, all right? If you are providing materials, you may have to pay that individual via a W-2. If they are providing materials, you may have to pay them with a 1099, which may or may not help you in taxes. Again, pro and a con either way. I don't want to tell you which way is right, because there's no right answer to that question. Talk to your local accountant or CPA and figure out what makes the most sense to you, okay? All of these things, I think, circle back into knowing your numbers. So you need to determine, is it right for me to GC this project or even be the worker in the project, or does it make sense to hire the GC? Lots of things to consider there. I think we covered a lot of it. Mike, anything I missed?
Not really. I think that's
Don't forget to get multiple bids. You had mentioned that as
Yeah,
well.
I really want to reiterate that when you're hiring out, you got to get multiple bids. I really like the way that Dave describes that, is you get to pick two of the three things. It's
just the way it works.
It really is in the world with almost everything. So again, you pick two, and you've got to kind of understand that's what you're doing.
Yeah, so let's talk about that just for one more second. Why do you only get to pick two? Well, let's think about it, guys. Time, cost, and quality. If you want a high quality, you're going to sacrifice time. You can't do a really great work on a project quickly. So it's just common sense. If you want high quality, you're going to sacrifice time. You're also going to pay more for high quality. So, these things are going different directions. Quality and quality, you want to be up. You want it to be high. But time and cost, you want to be low. So the lower you get on those scales, the lower you're dropping your quality. And the higher your quality goes up, the ones that you want to be low in terms of, like, let's say time, is going to be increased. So you're always got to pick two of those three. If you want all three, you better be really patient, and you better have a deep pocket. Seriously.
Absolutely.
And that's the only way that will work. So,
all right, guys. Well, that's it.
That's it. That's wrapping up of managing your rental rehab. Lots of tips in this one, guys. Check it out. Don't forget, we buy all our properties at a discount. It's how we make the burst strategy work. In order to rehab the property to get a refi, we have to spend at least $15K. Again, talk to your banker on what they require to get the entrepreneurial credit. But even before we get to the rehabbing stage, we are buying them at a discount. If you want to learn how to do that, check out freewholesalecourse.com.
Welcome back to Season 2 of the Discount Property Investor Podcast. Our mission is to share with you what we have learned from our experience and the experience of others to help you make more money investing like a pro. We want to teach you how to create wealth by investing in real estate the Discount Property Investor way. Make sure you never miss an episode and download the Discount Property Investor app in Google Play or iTunes today. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. Thanks for tuning in.